case, listen, I meet with many different groups, and I tell all of them the same thing when we begin, that, like I said, I work with the news media, and there's nothing that I haven't heard. Okay, you can ask me whatever questions you'd like. It'd be very difficult to offend me. That, like I said, there's nothing I haven't heard. I can't promise that I can answer all your questions. I also can't promise that you like my answers.
What's the most frequent question you get?
What's the most frequent question I get? Nobody's ever asked me that. You see, that's actually somebody asked me a question the other day also, which I had to really think about. But like I said, you can ask me whatever you'd like, and I will try to answer. Unless I say otherwise, I try to speak as a representative of the Jewish community in Hebron. I'm sure that you all know that where there are two Jews, there are at least three opinions. So it's very difficult to represent every person exactly, but on a fairly average course. So with that, yes, sir.
Please. Let me just continue with what I asked you downstairs. What happened in 1929 was some similar case, or has anything similar happened before 1929 from Muslim side?
Yes. Look, in Hebron, something of that magnitude, not to the best of my knowledge, but there were many problems here. There were Jews who were killed by Arabs in Hebron, but as far as I know, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe one of my friends may come down here in a little while, maybe he can be more accurate, but as far as I know, something of that magnitude never happened. But there were problems here. Over the years there were problems. Sure, there were problems.
I'm asking you, I'm just trying to compare a bit situation. I'm originally from Bosnia, and I hope you know. It is very important for you Jews also to know what happened to us, because we have got through very difficult times between 92 and 95. But that's not for the first time. That's for the 11th time.
Mm-hmm. And
it was not about 1, 2, 3, 5 lives. Every life is important. But it was about hundreds, thousands,
mm-hmm.
10,000s, and it happens again and again. And why I asked you about neighbors? It happened to us. It was done exactly by our neighbors,
mm-hmm.
those who we shared everyday life with, those who people were ready to swear, and suddenly, happened that no one could dream about. So that's why I'm just trying to go back to see. Because sometimes you found a number of crazy people, stupid people, easy to buy, to do something. So it is very important to be careful, when it comes to relations among neighbors or between neighbors. So if it is about outsiders, those who might have been hired by someone, and
no, these were people. This was these.
So it's something. It is. Tragedy is tragedy, but it is very important, when it comes to
what happened then?
harmony.
What happened then? First of all, didn't just happen in Hebron. There were riots throughout the area, going all the way up north to Tzfat and down into Jerusalem and Moza and in different places. The exact number altogether of people killed, I believe, was about 159 or 160, something like that. The worst of the riots took place here. It was orchestrated by Haj Amin Husseini. It was planned, and that we know. There's no questions about that. There were other atrocities after that also, but at that point in time, something of that magnitude had never happened before. Yes, sir.
Is there any proof of this incitement that
Oh, of
you
course.
said Hussein stood for?
Oh, sure.
Saying that the Jews were attacking the Temple Mount and blood was flowing?
Yes.
What
It's all
times?
documented. Yeah,
There
I
are
can.
documents
If
on
you
that?
if you'd like, I can give you afterwards sources that show all of this. It's been written about many times. But this was the excuse that was given at that time to begin the perpetration of the riots.
I was wondering, you said a little downstairs about your why it is important for you that there is actually a Jewish presence here. Could you say a little more about that? Why is this so important that it is worth all the costs involved for yourself and for the rest of the community here?
Okay, fine. So let me preface my answer. When you speak about costs, and there are many different costs, but just to begin by saying that there's a cost to being in Israel at all. The fact that there's a state of Israel today, and that we have to maintain here a very high military presence, not only in Hebron, but throughout the country, and that we have to deal with the kinds of issues that we have to deal with. One can ask almost the same question about the existence of the state of Israel. I believe that Hebron is something of a microcosm of all of the state of Israel. But if we speak about this place in particular, look, Hebron is the first Jewish city in Israel. And as I expressed downstairs, Jews have lived here literally for hundreds and thousands of years, almost continuously. There are very few times that we know of in history that there weren't Jews in Hebron. The last time that I know of historically there weren't Jews in Hebron before 1929 was between when the Crusaders came in 1100. They threw out the Muslims that had been here, and from 1100 until 1260 there weren't Jews in Hebron. In 1260 the Mamelukes came back throughout the Crusaders and they let the Jews come back. That's the last time that I know of before 1929 that there weren't Jews here, and we have reports over the ages of people who came to visit, both Jewish and Christian, people from all over the world that used to come here and leave written accounts of meeting people here. But when we speak about a holy site, a place where Jews have always been, and we talk about a place like Machpelah, not only was Abraham here, but this is where the Davidic monarchy began. David ruled in Hebron for 7.5 years before he went up to Jerusalem, made that our eternal capital. Hebron is, I look at Hebron, not only is it the roots of Judaism, of course it's the roots of Judaism, it's also the roots of all of monotheism. Anybody that believes in one God, from any religion, it began here, okay? And we have a very, very special relationship with the place, with the different places that are here. Hebron is a very spiritual place, and I sort of look at it like, if you take a tree and cut off the roots, what happens to the tree? I don't see any reason why a Jew shouldn't be able to live in the first Jewish city in the land of Israel, in the first Jewish city in the world. It has tremendous significance, and as such, we're here. I think that is a little bit of an answer. Yes, sir. Wait a minute. The man over here, you would ask a question.
Me?
No, the other gentleman next to it raised the hand. Yeah. You would ask. Yeah.
You said earlier that Israel, the state of Israel, is meant to include Syria, Jordan, and maybe other parts as well.
No, I said that was the original mandate that the British had been given from the League of Nations after World War I. That was the original mandate. That was later changed by the United Nations.
But do you believe that we have heard, or we have read several places that the Israeli army will not stop here. Jews will maybe continue to go to other cities. What is your opinion about that?
I'll tell you very honestly. Right now, it's very difficult for us to be where we are. Okay? There are people that don't want us in Hebron, they don't want us in Jerusalem, and they don't want us in Tel Aviv either. Okay? So today, I think that as far as I know, okay, in my opinion, and I think certainly the people today that are leading the state of Israel don't have any intentions to go up to Damascus. I think that today somebody has to go to Damascus and take care of what's happening there. Okay, that's very clear. Unfortunately, nobody's doing that because what's happening there is horrible. But I don't think that the state of Israel has any plans today not to go any further north or east or south. Okay, I think that those. I've seen that people do say that the intentions of the state of Israel are very grandiose and that we plan on taking. I don't see that having any place in reality. Certainly not today, and not in anything that could be called the foreseeable future. And I'm talking about a long time. I don't think that there's anybody that has any intentions like that.
But could you explain that from your religious point of view?
Look,
because you know that, as you said, that it's difficult to be Jew in Hebron, in Tel Aviv, and other cities as well. And
well, it's not that it's difficult to be there.
I understand that, but Jews had also that bad experiences before, but they came here back.
Mm-hmm.
So and it is explained through the scriptures, through the belief. So my question is actually, regardless of how difficult it is, but do you think, from your religious point of view, how Israel should look?
I think, from a religious point of view today, I think that it's a mitzvah, a positive commandment, a positive precept for a Jew to live in Israel. Okay, It's no more of a positive commandment for a Jew to live in Hebron or in Haifa or in Beersheba or in Tel Aviv. Okay, I'm not today looking. There, in the Torah, in the Bible, there are different accounts of the borders of Israel. Back in the days of Moses, so not just on the western side of the Jordan River, but on the eastern side of the Jordan River was Israel. Okay, today I don't see any realistic possibility for thought in any way, shape, or form, be it religious or political or in any other way, that the state of Israel has any, the leadership of the state of Israel, or people, normal people in the state of Israel, I can't speak for, people on the fringes someplace, have any intentions or expectations of expansion in the way that you describe. Yeah.
Okay, two questions. First question: do you support a two-state solution?
Mm. What's the second question?
It depends on your answer.
I usually tell groups that, of course, I support a two-state solution. We get Israel, and our neighbors can have Palestine, Texas. In Texas, Texas is a very big state, and there's a place there called Palestine, and they get more land there than they get here. But of course, I say that cynically. Sometimes my wife says the only people that understand my jokes are the the Americans. No, I'll give you a serious answer. Okay. Sometimes I say things, and if people don't laugh, I know I have a problem. Look, the two-state solution, as is proposed today, of course, we don't accept it. A two-state solution, as proposed today, is suicide for the state of Israel. Nothing less than that. It's suicide. Why is it suicide? So if we look take a very, very brief, and I don't have, in my office I have maps, I don't have one here, but if we take a very, very brief examination of the map of Israel today, so if we start up north, okay, we have there some good friends sitting on our border in southern Lebanon called Hezbollah that probably already have chemical weapons and are looking to get their hands on some more of them, plus some of these good missiles that shoot down airplanes and stuff like that. That's who we have sitting there. We come over a little bit, and today we have what's left of Syria, and nobody has any idea what's going to happen there, except that it seems fairly certain that at some point Assad will fall. We don't know how many more people he'll butcher before he falls, and then we don't know who's going to take over. I'm not an expert on Syrian affairs. From what I read, there's a fairly good chance that you'll find the Brotherhood taking over in Syria also. Coming down from there, we have Jordan, which according to what I've seen, and again, I'm not a prophet, but from what I've seen, they're next on the list. Okay, and the king there is getting a little upset because he knows that he's next, and they don't know exactly what they'll do about that. And then we come down to Egypt. We've seen what's happened in Egypt. There's total Andalusia there. Nobody knows what's going to happen there. And then, of course, we've got down on the bottom our friends, down on our southern border, our good friends Hamas, that have been shooting rockets at us. And that's, of course, ignoring Iran sitting back there trying to cook up their nuclear cocktail so that they can do a l'chaim without us. That's Israel. That's the state of Israel. To take that and add another enemy state, which is what a Palestinian state would be, another enemy state, which would cut Israel almost in half, leaving the border from places like Tulkarm and Kalkilia to places like Petah Tikva and Kfar Saba, 10 kilometers wide, is nobody in their right mind would even think about it. It doesn't even come into play. It's totally now. Just one last example of consequences of that. I don't know if you people have visited up in the area. We're in Judea. You go up north to the Samarian region. There are a lot of areas that are very hilly, very pretty. And if you go on the top of in the northern Samaria region on the hills, and you look to the west, on a nice day you can see the Mediterranean. You've got a very, very beautiful view of the Mediterranean from Netanya up in the north down to Ashkelon and Ashdod in the south. And if you look well, and it's a nice day, you can see the planes taking off and landing in Ben Gurion Airport. Israeli intelligence is trying to figure out what they're going to do if and when those are ever given to the Arabs as a part of a Palestinian state, and they start shooting at airplanes, because today they have missiles they can do that with. Okay.
So my question would be, because what I hear you say is that you want a one-state solution, sort of Israel, including the West Bank. So what do you do with the Palestinians then?
I don't understand the question. What do I have to do with them?
No, I'm asking you.
No, I don't like. What do you mean? What do you mean? What am I supposed to do with them? They can continue to live here. People can continue to live here. So you ask me what happens to them in terms legally?
No, I'm asking
you asked what their status is? What are you asking me?
If Israel is to take the responsibility over the Palestinians living in your Israel, what are they to do with the Palestinians? Give them democratic rights?
Look, the question that you ask is a very good question. It's a very difficult question to answer. And I will. Give me a minute and I'll try to answer as best as I can. There are two and again, I'm one person, and I'm not in the Knesset, and I live in Hebron, and I do what I do, but in my view, there are two possibilities. I've been in Israel now for almost 40 years. I grew up in the States. And there, in the United States, one of the ideals of the United States is democracy. And I grew up on that, and I believe in it. But I believe that democracy has to be not a target, an aim in and of itself, but a means to an end. It's not the end in and of itself. And if it brings about, if democracy were to bring about destruction, then what's preferable? I think that today, and this is the direction that I'm moving into, I can't say that I have made up my mind 100%, but I have said to numerous groups that I believe that it's very possible that the state of Israel would give them citizenship, the same thing that I have and my wife has and my children and people that live in Tel Aviv, give them citizenship, give them ID cards, give them the same privileges and responsibilities of any other Israeli, and let them live. I see that today as a possible, viable alternative to what you call a two-state solution. I think that it's. I don't say that it's easy. I don't say one has to. I have a booklet that deals with a lot of questions that you've asked. I don't have it in print. I have it online, right? Still as a PDF. Anybody that's interested later, I'll give you my my business card. If you email me, I'll send you a copy of it. But I write there that the issues that we're dealing with here are extremely, extremely complicated. There's no easy, snap your hands, clap your hands, and it's all over. The questions are very difficult. They're very complicated. There's a lot of very, very difficult problems involved. And I don't say that that's the solution or that would bring about a solution, but I do see it as a possibility. I do see it as a possibility today, granting full citizenship to anybody who's willing to live with us peacefully. In other words, not people that are going to try to kill us or that are going to try to incite to kill, but want to live peacefully within the framework of the State of Israel. It's very possible you give them full citizenship with the same rights and obligations as anybody else. That answered your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, while we're walking down the street, I just noticed a sign, several places, which I took a picture of as well. Just wondering, it is written that in September 2000, Arabs launched the Oslo War.
That's correct.
Why? Do you have any explanation of why it's called formulated as a war, whilst it was actually a peace, treaty kind of work?
I will, but I need. Excuse me 1 second. You can stay right where you are. I just have to focus down. Oh, fine. Look, the Oslo Accords were signed in 1994, 95. All of the major Arab populations in Judea and Samaria were transferred to Arafat, including Hebron. Arafat signed an agreement on the White House lawn with the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel, dividing Hebron. In terms of control, 75 to 80% of the city was transferred to the Palestinian Authority. The area of about a kilometer and a half was left under Israeli security control. With that, Arafat basically accepted the legitimacy of the Jewish presence in Hebron. In the end of the year 2000, following the Barak's attempt at Camp David to give Arafat almost all of Judea and Samaria, including East Jerusalem, to which Arafat said no, he declared war. Okay, there are people that call that the Second Intifada. That's what it's normally known as. We call it here the Oslo War because I know that myself and people that I work with and many others predicted time and time again that the Oslo Accords would lead to a war, and that's what happened. In Hebron itself, there are hills that surround us. You walk down the street, you probably saw to the south, there are hills, they're called Abu Snena outside here. Going north, they're called Har Sheikh. Those hills were all given to Arafat, to the PA. When Hebron was split, the Arabs stood up on those hills and shot at us for 2.5 years. From the end of the year 2000 to the middle of 2002, they shot at us. Okay? And just as an example, so I show you this. Okay? This is a book of mine, which was on the shelf over there. The bullet went in there, and it stopped here. Okay? This wasn't the first or only time that they shot into my apartment. You see in my windows there are little cages because we had sandbags in all the windows because all of my windows face the hills. One time they shot in through a window. I had left a little crack for a little light in the room, and they shot in through there, and they missed 2 of my kids, literally, without exaggerating by that much. So you asked me why I call it a war, because that's what happens in a war. You're right, the Oslo Accords were supposed to, and that was the aim of them, the goal was to bring about peace. It did the exact opposite, okay? And that's why in the signs we call it the Oslo War, because that's what it was.
Can I just ask a following question as well? Having this perception, basically what you have told, what I understand of something that is printed and shown in public is a bit different of what maybe you are thinking, but is this, although it is perceived like as a war, is this necessary of putting in streets? How and why? Maybe you don't know.
Okay, you asked me why they're there.
why
Okay,
is
I'll tell you. No,
Exactly.
I understand. I understand the question. We put the signs there not to speak about the Oslo War. We put the signs there because many people like yourselves walk the streets of Hebron and don't necessarily have a question and answer session with me or with anybody else. And they see sometimes things that that any normal people walking down the street would find difficult to comprehend. For example, when you walk down the streets here in Hebron, you see that the stores are all closed. And people say, why are the stores closed? And sometimes there's various media propaganda that people hear about or they're told or whatever by whomever. And because they don't have necessarily an opportunity to ask us, so we put the signs there. Basically as an answer, or partial, a very short answer to the question, why does the street look the way it does? Because during that period of time, there were numerous terrorist attacks. There was a suicide bomber that blew himself and killed some people. There were stabbings and shootings and I don't know what else. And as a result of that, the IDF decided to close the stores and close the road for about a kilometer. By the way, it's the only place in Hebron where the Arabs don't have access. They have access today to 97% of the city. I have access to 3% of the city. But at that time they closed the roads for security reasons. That has been renewed numerous times. It's been taken to the Israeli Supreme Court twice. The Israeli Supreme Court is not right-wing, very left-wing, but they've upheld that decision. As a matter of fact, the previous president of the Supreme Court, who's known to be extremely, extremely left-wing, wrote in the last time it was taken to her that this is the minimum necessary for some kind of security in Hebron, these measures. And we put the signs there to explain why the stores are closed. Together there's also, today you have, what do you call it in English? The barcodes, where people can, with a smartphone, they can look at it and it goes into a website, and there you can read more information and like that about it. But that's why it's there. The signs aren't there to talk about the Oslo War. That's part of the explanation that's given as to why it looks the way it looks today.
Can I ask you something? Because you said that the solution may be that you have one state and everybody should live there with equal rights. And so my question is, what do you do to prepare the Jewish children of Hebron to trust Palestinians so they can create this kind of state when they grow up? How do you build trust among different groups?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I have to admit it's a very difficult question to answer. And I'll explain to you why it's a difficult question to answer. People here have lived through very, very, very difficult events. Okay? Back at the beginning of the year 2001, a 10-month-old baby was shot and killed by a sniper in the hills. I have two kids that witnessed that. My son woke up one morning and heard that his teacher had been killed in a terrorist attack the night before. One of my daughters, when she was in 4th grade, on a Friday morning, the principal came in and said the teacher wouldn't be coming in today because she'd just been shot and killed in a terrorist attack. There are people here who have lost grandparents, friends. There's nobody that hasn't been touched one way or another. Very difficult to take, and that is on top of, look, when I take you to a museum downstairs and show you what happened in 1929, it's not just to say, look what happened. I believe that one has to learn from history. Does that mean that you can't talk to an Arab? And when I moved into this apartment, I've been living up here now for the past, 14 and a half years. And when we moved up here, there was a guy across the street who has hands of gold, and I have two left hands. I brought him up here, and he did a lot of work here. I paid him a lot of money, but he did good work. There were people in the past that had both business and personal relationships with Arabs. We still have a very interesting relationship with a very, very powerful Arab leader in this area. Very difficult, though, to take they're not scars, they're open wounds, and try to close it. Let's put it this way. I can't say that it can't be done, but it doesn't happen overnight. It also has to be very mutual. Okay, today, and I don't know how long you've been here and how long you'll be here, but I would suggest that you meet with a man named Itamar Marcus, who runs an organization called Palestinian Media Watch, and take a look at the incitement on Arab television coming out of Gaza and Ramallah, dealing with what they're teaching the children. I heard, I was on interviewed on a show which was broadcast a couple of days ago, and I saw a link, and they interviewed him, and he said what the kids today are being taught is going to be impossible to take them out of it, because it's a brainwashing. I very honestly, I don't brainwash my kids, but when they live through these kinds of things, it's very difficult to break that down. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. How can one prepare children for that? It can't be done short term. It has to be long term, but it has to be mutual. Today, when we go out on the roads and we drive places, and people have rocks thrown at their cars and firebombs thrown at their cars, there has to be, the violence has to stop. If the violence stops, then you can start to talk. You can bring people together. You can have discussion groups. I've had discussions with Arabs, and I was interviewed by an Egyptian journalist, and I've met with all sorts of interesting people. And I have interfaith groups where I have Jews and Christians and Muslims and you name it, and I don't have any problems with that. But in order to create the dialogue, which is the first step, there has to be an end to the violence. And so far, we haven't seen that happen. To the contrary, we see Abu Mazen going in the opposite direction.
I was Meta. Can I just? I was waiting for follow it. Anyways, thank you very much. It's very interesting to hear you.
Speak up.
Yes.
Hungry.
We visited Palestinians and we listened to them. They said their houses were taken by
the Jewish settlers.
Yeah. Their
Me.
land. Yeah. Their land was taken. Does it really happen? Do members of your community
Go take things from people?
Go to a house
and take it. And then if the Palestinians come, they shoot at them or they tell them go away. Okay. Look, everybody heard the question?
No.
Okay. No. The question was that there are charges that people here steal Arab houses, Palestinian houses, and then when they come to take them, we shoot at them. So I'll answer your question, but first let me make a general remark, which is very important. And I say this to journalists, almost any journalist I meet, as well as groups like yourselves. When you sit and talk to me or anybody else, you can ask me two different levels of question. You can ask me my opinion. Well, what's the weather like today? Well, I think it's horrible. I think it's dreadful. And you ask Muhammad, and he says, oh, it's beautiful. And you ask somebody else, and it's opinion. Okay, what I think and what he thinks and what he thinks and what he thinks. It's opinion, and whatever I think is worth anything more than what he thinks. The other level is if you ask me a factual question. What's today's date? So I can tell you what today's date is, okay? If I tell you that today is the 7th of February, so you can check it. It's not the 7th. Today's the 10th of February, right? It's the 10th. So you can go on the calendar and you say, but it's not. It's the 7th. You can take anything that I say as fact, and you can check it. The fact that I say it doesn't mean that it's gospel truth. Maybe I'm telling you the truth. Maybe I'm lying to you. Okay? I personally try very hard not to lie. I don't have anything to lie about. But you can check me. You find something that I say that's wrong, you come back to me. I don't have any problems with that. But the same thing is true when you talk to Yusuf and Muhammad and Mustafa. If they say something to you as fact, fine. Proof. Show it to me. Which house? They say you took our house and you told us to go. I want to see proof of that. Okay? And the answer to your question is no. Okay? This building where we're at was built by Jews, for Jews, and Arabs in 1893. The neighborhood down the road where my office is, the Avraham Avinu neighborhood, I mentioned where the synagogue is a Jewish neighborhood from the middle of the 1500s, from 1540, till they threw us out in 1929. When we came back, it had been razed. There was nothing left of it. The community up the hill, Tel Umeida, where we live today, was empty. It's Jewish property that was bought by Jews in Hebron, I believe, in 1807. Okay? And there was nothing there when we came back. There is property that we've bought. Okay? I don't know if you know, but it's very difficult today to buy from the Arabs, because according to PA law, it's a capital crime. An Arab that sells property to Jews is to be executed. They kill them. They torture them a little bit first, and then they kill them. We bought a building up the road between Hebron and Kiryat Arba. It's called Beit HaShalom, the Shalom House. We paid over $1 million for it. And of course, the owner of the place, Rajabi, started jumping up and down, saying he hadn't sold it, and he hadn't sold it, and we'd stolen it from him. And so the army threw us out. We were there for 22 months. They threw us out, and it went to court. When it went to court, so Rajabi was a witness. And the judge said to him, "Did you sell a house?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "You got paid?" And he said, "Yes." Now, he had to say yes because we have a film of him counting the money. So then the judge said, "What happened next?" He said, "Well, I changed my mind. I gave him the money back." The judge said, "Fine. Give me a receipt." Don't have one. Documentation, anything. Don't have any. You gave all that money back and you don't have any proof? He said, "Well, us Arabs, we do everything by faith and trust." So we won the case. And now they're appealing at the Supreme Court. The judge didn't have any choice. He had to give it because they don't have any proof. So he will say that we stole his house. But the court's already said that we bought it. Okay? First of all, as a rule, okay, I know that what you hear in the media and everything that you see all around, we don't shoot people. We don't shoot at people. We don't shoot people. Okay? I usually carry a pistol because I haven't been feeling well. I left it in the room today. I've never had to use it. I hope I never do have to use it. People here carry weapons for self-defense. Very, very, very few Jews have been convicted of illegally or illegitimately using weapons when it wasn't a case of self-defense. Very few. We don't go around shooting people. I had once here, there were people here from Sweden, yeah? I had here once a member, I think it was of the Swedish Parliament, either the Swiss or Swedish, I think she was Swedish Parliament, who a friend of mine met in Jerusalem at the American Colony Hotel. And he talked about her, about Hebron. She said, "Oh, it's too dangerous, and they're shooting at each other," and he brought her in here. And she was amazed because she had been told that there were no women and children in Hebron, and it was cowboys and Indians. We were shooting at the Arabs all day, and they were shooting back at us. And she came in, and it was quiet, and there were women and children. She saw the museum downstairs, and she was amazed because she had been told that there wasn't a massacre. It was a civil war between the Jews. Okay? There's a difference between the truth and the propaganda. We don't shoot at people. We're not crazy. We're normal just like anybody else. True, we want to live here. Okay, I call that idealism. I don't call it extremism. I don't see any reason why a Jew shouldn't be able to live in the first Jewish city in Israel. You want to call that extremism? Extremism. But that's, it's normal. But people don't, there's this conception of Jews in Hebron eating 1 Arab for breakfast, 2 for lunch, and 3 for dinner. And then they wipe the blood off their mustache. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. And it's very unfortunate that that's the kind of conception people have of it. Yes, sir.
We went through the city, and I just wondered, looking at the garbage being thrown out of the windows and stuff, are you doing anything to stop that kind of harassment?
First of all, you're talking about the shuk.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, we've been trying for a number of years to clean it up because most of what you see there has been there for quite a long time. The net that's there is there for two reasons. Okay, it is there to make sure that nothing falls on their heads. It's also there to make sure that they can't throw bombs into our windows, which is much more of a danger than the garbage flying out the windows. I can tell you a short story. A couple of years ago, one night I got a notification that there were on the street right downstairs underneath us, there were, it was about 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, there was a group of Arabs down underneath with drums. They were drumming, 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. It was something of a bother. It was very clearly a provocation. But the kids here and other people don't take kindly to that. So what did they do? They went out with some buckets of water and to make sure that they left. As soon as the kids showed up with the water, the photographers all showed up. They just, all of a sudden, they all appeared and they started taking pictures of the kids with the water. Now, there's no pictures of the noise or the bother or anything else, but it was a setup, okay? As a rule, I don't buy throwing things down there. I've never done it, and I don't think that there's any reason for it. Most of the garbage that you see there has been there for a long time. We've been trying to clean it up for years. We want to get rid of it. We want to get it all out because we know that it's used. It's excellent propaganda. And then, when people walk around there, that won't be there. And I don't think there'll be any more there because I don't think people continue to throw anything out the window, throw anything down, below. I don't see that as but it's something that whatever we have to say within the leadership of the community or within the families or whatever, we try to stop. There's no reason for it. There's no necessity for it. It doesn't solve any problems. But most of what you see there has been there for a long time. And we hope that one of these days we'll be able to clean it out. And then, and then they won't be able to use it anymore because it won't be there, because people don't do it.
Jews moved over here because the property was actually Jewish for centuries ago. And later on, the Palestinians or Arabs lived in. Are there any properties in other parts of the Arab area, which we describe as that Jewish people should move to and take over? The Jewish property, which is actually.
First of all, there is more Jewish property in Hebron that today we have no access to. And there's nothing we can do about it. There's Jewish property in the Kasbah, 100% identifiable, but today we have no access to Kasbah in any case. The state of Israel won't let us go there. On the other side of the city, there's also Arab property. Yeah, it's not just a question of going back and taking back property that belongs to you. In any normal society, people can purchase, people can rent, and we can't do any of that today. Like I said, we can't buy from an Arab that wants to tell us. Okay, there are people that would sell us property. The people have tried to. There's a building down the road across from the Tomb of the Patriarchs, across from Machpelah, that we purchased. People in Hebron purchased, and they captured one of the Arabs who was involved in the sale, and he's in jail in Ramallah with a death sentence on his head. We put out a letter to international organizations to try to save him. Myself and one of my colleagues put out a letter to the Red Cross, put it out to TIF, we put it out to everybody, to the UN. But today we don't have any access to it. It's not even something that we deal with on any kind of a daily or an active basis because it's not. It doesn't exist today. We don't have any access to any of the property.
So you're obviously not satisfied with the situation.
Of course not.
What is future for you and your cousin, Palestinians?
Listen, we want to be able to live normally. Okay? If I want to, take one objective, one goal, and say this is what we want to be able to live normally. What does it mean to live normally? It means that I don't have to have all the security forces we have here. But understand, when you see the security forces, I understand very well that when you come over here from where you people come from and you see what goes on here, it's really strange. When I lived in Jerusalem. I came to Israel the first time in 1974. I was in university at Hebron University for a year. I was a 20-year-old college student from New Jersey. And I came over and I saw kids. It was a year after the Yom Kippur War. I came over and I saw kids younger than me carrying around submachine guns. Now, I was a suburban kid from the United States. The only place I ever saw a gun was on a television show, or we used to play cowboys and Indians when we were kids. That was where I saw guns, or on a policeman. Policemen carried guns. All of a sudden, I saw 19-year-olds carrying around submachine guns, and it's really strange. Okay, because it's just totally out of your mindset. It took a while to get used to. After a while, you realize that it's not so strange. Unfortunately, it's a necessity. It's a fact of the reality of life here. Different places have different realities of life, and that's one of the realities of life here. If you travel around up north, then you see, and I mean up around the Kinneret and going up towards the border with Lebanon and Syria, you see huge numbers of troops up there because it's a necessary fact of life. And so it is here too. When I came here in 1974, they didn't have to have guards at bus stops to make sure people weren't going to get on the bus with a bomb and blow it up. So that there are realities that you have to live with, and I understand when you come here and you see it, it looks really, really strange. I would love to be able to live without that. I would love to be able to live without having to carry on a weapon. I don't like weapons. A weapon is a tool of destruction. We're here to live. We want to be able to live and let other people live. There's no reason why anybody shouldn't be able to live. But it's a necessary fact of life. Okay? I know people that are alive because they had weapons, and I know people that are dead because they didn't have weapons. So what can you do? I'd like that Hebron should be an open city. Today I can't go over to the other side of the city. There are some very important historical and religious sites on the other side of the city that I have no access to. I'm not allowed to go over there. What?
Time's up.
Time is up. Okay.
I was wondering, do you have permission to carry weapons?
Of course. People have to be licensed to carry a weapon. You're licensed either by the Army or by the Ministry of Interior. The requirements necessary to buy a pistol are very stringent, and it has to be renewed every few years, and they're very, very stringent about that. Of course you have to be licensed. You're not allowed to just carry, and they check you. When I go to Machpelah, I have to leave it downstairs and give them my license, and every time the same policemen take it. They look at it to see that it's valid. Of course you have to be licensed. Okay, listen, if your time is up, so listen. First of all, I thank you for coming, and I hope that you found the visit interesting and fruitful. As I said, you might not agree with everything I've said, but I prefer that you hear it from me and not from CNN, okay? Because usually it's a little bit different. You're all invited back. Anybody that wants to come back. If I were feeling a little better, I would give you a little bit more of a tour, because there's a lot to see here and things that are very interesting. I also told you I have business cards. Anybody that would like a card is more than willing to have one. If you'd like more material, I'd be very happy to email you. Send me an email. My email address is on the card. There are 2 of them. You can send to whichever one you want, and I'd be happy to send you information by mail. If you ever have questions, you can feel free to be in touch. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here in Israel.
Final question.
Yes, sir.
If we hear anything in the news about Hebron in the future, and we wonder about things, are we free to call you and get your side of the story?
Definitely. My cell phone number is here. You can feel free to call me at any given time. No problem whatsoever.
So let me just before we leave give you a very big thanks. We have been listening to different narratives and different stories, and it's so good for us to really meet the people, and not as you say, just look at CNN or read it in the papers. So I think what you have given us now is extremely useful for us. So we really appreciate it that you took your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.